Cool. Just gonna make all these sounds. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use the foam roller and the Pilates ball. If you don't have a foam roller, some of this you could just do with like a tennis ball or lacrosse ball in areas that feel better for you. And then when we lie down on it, you can just roll up a towel to lie down to like get a little bit of destabilization but support, or you can just do it without the foam roller. We're actually going to start on our side with the foam roller in our armpit. Yay! Support your head with your hand and find a spot that is mildly talkative. I'm not looking for extreme pain here. And just kind of breathe for a second and try to melt into the foam roller on your exhale. So big inhale and then exhale, try to melt. Good. Just a couple more breaths here. And you can rock back a little bit and see if that changes the sensation. And then rock forward a little bit, see if that changes the sensation slightly. Couple more back and forth, just gentle, easy roll. Oh, hello. When you find a spot that says, hey, what's up? That is when you're gonna hold and breathe. And then roll off of it. And then again, find the spot that is mildly tender, right? And if you don't have a foam roller and you're wanting to use a tennis ball or lacrosse ball, you could roll out pecs, TFL, feet. And now if you're ready, just support your head so you've got more pressure on the foam roller. If you don't want to lift your arm, that's okay too. We're gonna lift our ribs to the sky, pulling the foam roller closer to us. And then push the foam roller away from us, let the ribs sink to the floor. And then let the ribs lift towards the sky, foam roller pulls in. If you find an exciting spot, just breathe for a second and then push the foam roller away. Good. So we're getting a little lateral flexion. Hi, ghost, and away. Good. Give me just a couple more. And this doesn't have to be a big move, especially if your arm is on the ground. It can be very small. We're just getting a little bit of movement through that tissue. Find the spot you want to hang out on. We're taking our top arm and we're reaching it forward. Slide your fingertips forward. Now slide your hand towards your heart. Open your heart towards the sky. Keep your head supported. Big inhale. And then you can slide forward. Now, depending on where you are on your foam roller or depending on how stable you feel, you can keep your arms straight. It does create a longer lever. So feel free to move the foam roller farther behind you so you're less likely to fall off of it and you can feel more supported. Trying to keep the rotation mostly through the thoracic spine, but of course your hips can come with you. Two more. Last one. Hold for a second, breathe. And then instead of moving from the ribs, we're letting the hips move so the knees come up towards the sky. Slide that other hand behind your head. Yep. And just start to extend over the foam roller a little bit. And then slide your ribs down into the foam roller so you come out of that extension. This should be pretty gentle here. We're just trying to find extension through our thoracic spine, especially if we tend to hunker over a keyboard or I don't know what other hunkering activities we do, golf clubs, cake decorating, right? Like sometimes we just need that rib cage part of our spine to move in the opposite direction. 2 more like this, focusing on the relaxing extension, trying not to hyperextend through the neck, but keep it supported. And last one, come back into your gentle flexion, let your knees start to roll to the side, and we're going to the opposite side. So I'm going to turn around so I can see everybody. And just hang on and breathe for a second, allowing yourself to melt into the foam roller. Good. Couple more breaths. And maybe this side is more exciting. Maybe this side is quieter and less exciting. Almost there. And you can just start to roll back a millimeter. See if that changes the sensation you feel on the foam roller. Roll forward a tiny bit. See if that changes the sensation. And back and forth gently. We're not rolling, right? It's not like we're trying to roll out pie crust. We're just allowing ourselves to melt. And then if it's appropriate, you can support your head and lift your elbow. Now we're sliding the ribs down to the floor, pushing the foam roller away from us. Sliding our ribs to the sky, pulling the foam roller closer to us. Keep in mind, if something doesn't feel good, don't do it, right? We want everything to feel helpful. Couple more here. Yeah. Think about a little lift of the rib cage and a little push down. So when we think of the lift of the rib cage, kind of think of a plank, right? And if you've ever worked on the reformer, this is also kind of similar to side over on box, right? One more each side. Good. Now we're going to bring that elbow down, hand comes forward, let the rib cage move. And then you can slide that hand towards your heart and start to rotate back and forward. And of course, if you like, you can always extend that arm. Now we're on the foam roller right now, obviously, but if you don't have a foam roller, you can still get this rotation on the ground, right? And if you want, you can even roll up a towel just to get a little bit of pressure on the area, right? It doesn't have to be a foam roller. Make sure you're breathing softly, right? We're trying not to have like a hyperventilating style breath. So a nice exhale that's long and gentle. 2 more. Last one. We hold. Go ahead, slide the knees back. Slide a little closer to the foam roller if you slid away. Support your head this time and nod your chin slightly, but we're not pulling on it. Press your feet into the ground and just allow your hips to lift slightly. Now, making sure that the foam roller is on your rib cage near your scapula. We don't want it to go down to floating ribs. We're just going to push into our feet to move a little bit closer to the foam roller and then drag ourselves away from it slightly using our hamstrings. So small push and drag. 2 more. Last one. Hips can come down, gentle little extension, and then come all the way up. We're going to move this underneath our hips. Now, if you don't have a foam roller, you can once again roll up the towel, or you can put the ball underneath your hips. We're actually going to bring it right underneath our sacrum and lie down. So if you have one of the squishy balls, you might be able to touch the ground with more ease. If you're using the foam roller, have your hands to the side. Now, just find neutral here as best as possible. So we're not arching, we're not coming into a giant tuck yet. We're just letting our spine hang out. Okay? On exhales, we want to start to engage those abs a little bit. So big inhale into the sides and backs of your ribs, expanding them 3-dimensionally. On your exhale, think about hugging your ribs and hip bones towards your midline, and then gently pressing your sacrum into the foam roller. If you arched or tucked, see if you can do that while maintaining neutral or neutral-ish, right? Couple more. Last one. Making sure the ribs aren't popping, but are gently sliding towards your belly button. Float one leg at a time to tabletop. Good. Now squeeze your inner thighs together as if you're trying to pop a balloon, and then imagine pushing your feet into a wall. So your hamstrings are now helping to support you. Let one toe start to tap towards the ground. And if you can get your whole foot to the ground, great. Inhale, exhale, press your sacrum from your abs into the ball or foam roller to get it to lift. And then other side. Keep it slow and controlled. We're trying to find exactly where our end range is, right? So when you can get to where your toe can tap, see if you can press into your big toe mound and then press your heel down so your hamstring kicks on. And then using your abs to help stabilize you, you float your leg up to the sky. Thigh bone melts down in the socket. Couple more. If you're on the ball, it'll be a little easier to get to the floor potentially, depending on how inflated it is. If you're on the foam roller, really make sure that the ribs aren't trying to help when the leg sinks down. And you can even potentially think of this like a little glute massage. One more each way. Bring both legs to tabletop. Try to pop a balloon with those inner thighs. Think about the thigh bones connecting to the ribs and tap both toes towards the ground. Try not to arch, and then exhale, float them up. Good. A few more. Now, if you don't feel like you're going to roll off of your foam roller, you can always bring your arms to the sky. As soon as I start to lower my legs, I feel like I'm being pushed. So I'm going to keep holding onto the foam roller, but it's really up to you. Good. Couple more here. Find your end range. Don't bypass it, but hang out there for a second. Last one. Now, if your hands are up, you'll want to grab the sides of the foam roller. We're going to let one hip drop as the other hip lifts. If you're on the ball, you might choose to come off of the ball And then drag your ribs back. Other side. Hold at the end range. Exhale. Think about the ribs initiating that movement, right? So it can be pretty easy to try to move from the legs, but we want to think of the legs like a passenger in a car. They're along for the ride, but they're not the one driving. Good. Couple more. Trying to keep the knees together. And once again, you've got that glute massage. One more, each direction. Last one. Go ahead, lift your hips, push the roller away and come down. Good. Now you can stay on the ground. You can have that towel the lengthwise of your spine, or you can lie down on top of the foam roller. Lying down on top of the foam roller is going to definitely add more of a balance challenge here. Make sure that your head and tail are supported. So depending on the firmness of your foam roller, you might really feel feedback of your spine here. So first, we're just gonna move our hips. So let your tailbone be heavy, and then let your tailbone be light. So we're just rocking possibly past neutral barely, through neutral into imprint. And as you do this, start to notice what your chin does, right? And what your nose does. If it's perfectly still, notice if you are bringing tension into your neck or shoulders, right? Last one. Now, just look up overhead and then down. Intentionally moving your head. And then just notice what that wants to do to the rest of your spine, right? Last one. Like a string, attaches them, yeah? Okay. So hands come to the ground, pressing your sacrum into the foam roller, float one leg to tabletop. Reach that foot down to the ground, push it into the ground, float the other leg up. As you do this, you can almost start to think of the push down as the gas pedal that allows that other leg to lift. So if you have hip flexors that try to do all the work, focusing on the opposite leg can sometimes help quiet down the sensation of the hip flexors. Now, if you are wanting more challenge, you can, of course, float your arms up. And if you aren't using the foam roller at all, instead of marching, you can do toe taps. Okay. If you're like, well, I'm in between, just hover the fingertips barely above the ground. And of course, if you like, you can take the opposite arm as leg overhead. Couple more. 3. Try not to move too fast, right? If we go past our body's easy ability to stabilize, we can lose it, right? Last one. If your hands are up, bring both fingertips to the ground. Bring one leg at a time to tabletop. Now maybe you have your hands wide and hands desperately down. Maybe you're barely on your fingertips. And we're pushing one foot away from us, reaching it to the opposite wall. Hold. Drag the heel on the ground to get the leg back. Other side, push it away, and then drop the heel some, drag it back. We are doing this to try to connect to our core And then get a little bit of hip flexor stretch and hamstring recruitment. So push, hold, slowly sink that foot like it's sinking and putting and back. Couple more. 2. Last one. Now step one foot down. The other leg extends towards the sky. Push that foot away, away, away. It's going to lower to the ground. Flex the foot, allow it to float out. Now maybe you bring your hands off the ground. Maybe you bring your hands to the sky. Maybe your hands move in opposition of the foot. It's up to you and your body. As the foot goes away from the face, if the foot gets to the ground, push into the ground. See if you can get a little bit more recruitment and stretch without letting the pelvis drop or the ribs pop. 2 more. And maybe you keep one hand on the ground here, right? Bring that leg back to center, bend, step, float the other leg, extend it, and we reach it away. Maybe it pushes into the ground, flex and float. As we bring the leg up, think about the thigh bone connecting to the ribs. And once again, maybe the arms go in opposition of the leg. Trying to stabilize through your center. Making sure you're using your breath. 2. Last one. Bring that foot to the ground as well. Arms open wide. If your shoulders internally rotated, see if you can open your collarbones more. Reach through one fingertip, look the opposite way. Big breath. Other side. Reach and look. One more each side. Now go ahead and slide your hands behind your head, interlacing your hands. Spiral your elbows forward, shoulder blades draw down your back. Now, if this in and of itself is unstable, don't stay on your foam roller, it's okay. You can absolutely come off of it. Otherwise, exhale, curl into your chest lift. Now, you may have noticed that you immediately tucked, right? If that's the case, just once you get to your end range, let your tailbone be a little bit heavier. And then slowly lengthen all the way down. Couple more here. Once we get to a certain point, our spine, of course, has to respond. Last one. Hold. Now you can always bring a fingertip to the floor. We're going to lift one heel. Press that heel down. Lift the other heel. Press that heel down. Back and forth. And then, of course, if you feel good, you can always float that foot up. If you feel less stable than that, but more stable than just lifting the heel, bring a hand down. Try it out. Right? You can always think of peeling the foot up. Good. Now float one leg up, hold. We're gonna press a hand into that leg, thinking of pressing from our abs, armpits and abs. And just hold for a second. Everybody feel that extra work? Yeah, other side. Now, if you have to have a hand on the ground, no problem. If that brings excessive tension into your neck, keep your head down. You'll still feel your abs here. They're having to stabilize us. They're also helping find that transmission of force from upper body and lower body, right? Couple more. And 2. Last one. Now all we're gonna do is switch hands. So we're doing the exact same thing, but opposite hand comes across. It's trickier. And you might feel your obliques a little differently, yeah? How's that for everybody? So good? Great. Yeah, yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. We're almost there. We have just a couple more. And if one of these variations doesn't work for you, but the other one did, go back to the other one. One more each side. Feet down, head down. Bring your fingertips to the sky. Arm bones relax down. Let the arms come overhead. And then think about dragging your elbows down so you're coming into a goal post. And just breathe for a second. And then keeping your elbows exactly where they are, let your knuckles be a little bit heavier. One breath, relax. Keep your knuckles right where they are. Let your elbows be slightly heavier. Maybe you feel the stretch in a different place now. Relax. Keep your elbows right where they are. Let your knuckles be heavier. Relax. Keep your knuckles where they are. Let your elbows be heavier. Relax and just see if you've got a little bit more range of motion through those pecs. Bring your hands forward. Inhale. Exhale, come into your chest lift. Yeah. And then come all the way down. Now we are going to come up. So if you want to try a little half roll up, you can. Don't worry if it doesn't work. I'm not sure if mine will. We inhale, exhale. See if you can let yourself come up a little bit. It's more of an experiment than anything. Yeah. We're gonna come off of the foam roller. Yeah. Now, go ahead, grab the foam roller in between your hands. And we're just rolling all the way down. So we're doing roll-ups. We're doing this with the foam roller in between our hands. And then let the hands come overhead. Inhale. Exhale. Yeah. Now, if you're like, oh man, my feet are lifted, you can always widen your feet a little bit. See if that helps. You feel a little bit more stable in your roll-ups. Now, if you need a prop like a pad underneath your back, great. If you need to use your legs instead on the way up, great. Do what you need to in order to let your body respond without having to brace, right? 2 more. Now this one is just for fun. Come up. You guys just looked at me like, what do you mean fun? We're gonna place the foam roller on our shin. Keep one leg on the ground, keep one shin attached to the foam roller. Yeah, and then come up. Yeah, it's spicy. Other side. Good. And back and forth just a few times. Huh? Yeah. Spicy. One more each side. You can, of course, always do this without the foam roller. You could do this just with your hands floating in the air or the ball. Last one, we're actually going to hold it down. Keep pressing into your prop with the heel of your hands. Bring the other leg up, switch legs. And then again, so bring the other leg up and switch. Now, if you'd like, you can be in a chest lift here. Good. If that doesn't feel good on your neck, bring your head down. Good. We have just a couple more. Now, hands can be on the outside of the prop. You're just taking the prop to the outside of the leg and switching. Good. Now you can keep your head elevated or not. And this, if you're squeezing the prop and hitting the exact same position each time, you might feel a little bit more recruitment in those obliques, yeah? Good. And two. Last one, each side. Hug your knees in and just gently rock from side to side. Now, flex your feet here and let the prop hang out on your feet or your ankles. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Hands behind your head. Come into your chest lift. And just start to send your feet away from you a bit. Hold, and then let them come back. Good. Now notice, if you immediately send your feet up, it becomes like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, right? We don't want the boulder to roll towards our face. So keep your heels a little lower and don't go as far. Notice how that's actually more ab recruitment as well. You guys are like, I guess. Yeah, because our quads aren't able to go into their full range to help us stabilize. 3, 2 more. Last one. Hug your knees in and gently rock from side to side. Good. Now, go ahead, bring the foam roller or the ball in between your knee pits, so your hamstrings. Now keep squeezing that. Oh, hello, calves. And lift your chest, push into the foam roller, and then lower down. We're gonna start rolling like a ball. Yeah. Now, with this, it's trickier because it's a lot harder to like swing the legs, right? Yeah. So keep looking down at your feet. Yeah. Inhale back, keep squeezing. Exhale, hold. Yeah. Yeah, keep squeezing the foam roller if you can. Good. Inhale, squeeze the foam roller. Exhale, squeeze the foam roller. Good. Hey, Nancy, don't go back as far. Yeah. Better. Good. Thank you. Yeah. It's hard because we tend to want to squeeze or like fling our legs to help us, right? Good. 2 more. Last one. And come all the way up. Nice. Oh, did you feel how there was a little thunk? It's because you looked up at the sky. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're going to come into a little bit of seated spine twist, but you can also do that seated on your foam roller if that feels appropriate. It's going to be more challenging. If you're like, well, I want the height, but I don't want the unstable surface, you can like grab a yoga block or fold your mat a couple times. We're going to widen our feet slightly, hands out to the side, palms up. Now, if this long lever doesn't feel great, you can always be here. Think of your spine in one piece, and we're just rotating. Inhale. Exhale, maybe rotate a little bit deeper and come back. Other side. Inhale. And then exhale a little bit deeper. So let's try something, you guys. Go to your end range. And then instead of breathing, hold your breath, try to force more. It's really hard, isn't it? And then other side. Hold your breath, try to force more. Not great feeling, right? So now, go to your end range. Don't worry about getting more. Just inhale. Just exhale. See how much easier that was? Yeah, and of course you can also hug yourself if your neck and shoulders are really trying to help. Good. One more each side. One more. And come back to center. Now, you can keep your feet outstretched, you can bring them together, or you can cross them. We're just gonna do a fun little experiment with our eyes. We're gonna turn to the right, but before we do, look to the right, and then turn. And keep looking, and then come back. And then other side, look, and keep looking. You got pretty far, right? Now, we're going to turn to the right, but you're going to look to the left. It's so much harder to get anywhere, isn't it? Oh, you're looking to the right. Hey, hold on, hold on. We're going to turn to the left. Look to the right first, with your eyes only. Now, keeping only your eyes looking right, try to turn to the left. It's really hard, isn't it? Yeah, because our ocular system has a lot to do with basically everything. So now let's do it the way that's easier. Look to the right, go to the right. And then look to the left, go to the left. Good. And while we're up here, we're gonna get a little curl and sit. So I'm just turning to the side awkwardly, and hands can come forward. So think about just your sits bones, trying to send the foam roller back behind you slightly. Hopefully your hamstrings just turned on a little bit. Now use them to curl, pulling your sits bones underneath you. Don't go so far that you're gonna fall, right? And then widen through your sits bones, restack. Good. And then again. Now, if you need to, of course, your hands can be behind your thighs. If it needs to happen, you can even have your hands behind you. It's just a very different sensation. Good. A couple more here. Think about that scoop coming from your deep abdominals. And just notice what your hips and pelvis want to do, right? So it's entirely possible they move in tandem, or maybe one wants to pull back farther than the other. Good. Hold your end range. And we're just gonna take one arm out to the side and back. Most of you have done this with me before, right? It adds a different element of surprise when you're on the foam roller. So slow and steady wins the race. Couple more. If you need the ball in between your knees, grab it. Good. And I'm watching all 4 of you in case you're wondering. One more each side. Hold, and then if it feels right for you in your body, bring your arms overhead and then back. And just notice what happens, right? So with having the foam roller underneath us, it is a little bit more telling, right? Don't go into a range that feels bad. Don't worry about getting your hands behind you. It's just to challenge your core a little bit. Hold at your end range. See if you feel a little extra work when you do. Trying not to allow the rib cage to lift with the ribs. Last one. Good. Hands come forward. We're actually going to bring our feet together, knees out to the side. Let's get a little forward stretch. And breathe. Should feel good, not bad. And come all the way out of there. We're coming onto all fours. Now, if you're really excited about any sort of quadruped and you want to see what your body wants to do, you can always bring the foam roller on your back. Don't worry, the foam roller will fall. Don't worry, it's going to fall, but it just gives you information, right? So we're going to lift one arm, right? Mine already fell. So it's just about seeing what happens, right? So first, just breathe. Widen through your sits bones. Just push into one hand, maybe the other hand floats. And then push into the other hand, and maybe that other hand floats. And notice if one side is more stable than the other. And then when the foam roller falls, don't worry about it. It was just to see. Yeah. So for example, every time I lift my left arm, it's no problem. Every time I lift my right arm, I don't even realize that I tend to want to kind of drop on that side until the foam roller tells me. So now I know that it's a little trickier for me and I need to work a little harder to keep that side elevated. Good. One more, each side like this. It's fine, keep it down. It was just for the first one or two, right? Now, just do a little kitty cat pause here. And then when you're ready, both hands down, slide one foot out. Push that foot into the ground. Try to keep it dorsiflexed. So instead of pointed, the heel is driving away, squeezing that glute, finding your abs. And then reach that other arm away if it works for you. Maybe it elevates, maybe it doesn't. And then bring it down. Slide the other foot out. We're actually trying to keep it on the ground, pushing into that heel, finding that glute, and then sliding that hand away. Good. Back and forth just a couple of times. Push, maybe you reach, maybe you don't. Oh, you were doing so good. Now, you can always be on your fists, your forearms. We're reaching one foot out, other foot comes to meet it. Pushing into our heels a little, finding those glutes, lengthening through the crown of your head. And then bend one knee, exhale, reach it back. Other side. Allowing that spine to stay as still and stable as possible. Two more. Keeping a little bit of pressure through your pointer finger side as well. Last one. Knees down. Press yourselves into a rest position. We're going to slide all the way out long. And if you want, you can use the foam roller as a pillow. Extend that top foot. Extend it out so far that your bottom ribs have no other option than to lift. We're trying to find a nice straight spine here. Bottom leg can stay bent. Now, if you're kind of in hip flexion here, right? So feel this crease in the front of your hip. And if it's really got a harsh angle to it, think about squeezing your glutes forward without really tucking. It's still neutral. Now push that foot away from you. It's going to stay slightly back, reaching it away, and then flex, squeegee it down. So as we do this, we're trying to keep pushing the foot away. We're not letting the hip hike. If the hip hikes, we stop using our glute as much and start using our QL. Good. Nice job, everybody. How's that feeling? Good. We have 3. 2 more. Last one, hold this one up. Tiny little baby circles. Think about that glute max, dragging it back for 5, 4, 3, 2, reverse, boom, boom, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. Flex the foot, allow the heel to drive forward, and then point the toe. Think about dragging it back through wet sand. And then allow it to fold, point, and drag. We have 3 more. Trying to reach the foot away from the crown of the head without the spine having to shift, right? Last one like this. Bring your knees together. Now, this is going to be a little tricky, okay? Keep your knees bent. Make sure that your ribs don't flare. Bring your legs back as far as you can without your spine responding, okay? Now, bring your top leg forward on the ground. Now, feel where your thigh bone on that bottom leg is lined up, okay? Extend that foot out, keeping your upper thigh bone still. Lift the leg towards the sky, keeping your upper thigh bone, or keeping everything together. Now, keeping your upper thigh bone still, not letting your knee come forward, keeping your knee in place, bend that leg back. Yeah, oh, hamstring, huh? And then bring it forward. You can flex your foot here to get more hammy, still keeping that knee elevated. And then reaching it away as you straighten it. So as you reach it away, you're focusing more on inner thigh, yeah? And as you bend the leg behind you, you're focusing more on hamstring, yes? But keep that knee pulling up as you bend. 2, everybody doing good? Last one like this. Hold, lift the knee and foot. 4, pressing that top knee into the ground, 2, 3, 2, last one, extend, bring it down, other side. That inner thigh start talking a little bit? Yeah. So find your setup, extend that top leg so far away from your face that your bottom rib starts to lift, and then feel your hip crease. Notice if you're actually in hip flexion or not. If you are, squeeze your glute forward. See if you can minimize a little bit of that crease. Top hip bone pointing forward. Push the foot away from you without letting the hip hike. So we're focusing on that glute. Flex, drag it down. And push. Reach the foot away, away, away. Good. And drag it down. Hey, Nancy. Heel back 1/2 inch. Yep. Try not to let the hip hike. Yeah. There you go. Nice job, everybody. How's that feeling? Good. Elizabeth, hold at your top. Hold at the top. Push your foot a little bit away towards the wall. Yeah, there you go. Good. Andrea, that looks good, but I can see your heel trying to creep forward. Bring it back just a little. Yeah. 2. Good. Last one, hold it up. Tiny little baby circles. Still trying to stabilize through your center. So if you think of that bottom oblique helping you, right, that will help stabilize you against the force of your leg. And reverse. 4, 3. Everybody feeling that glute a little bit? Yeah. 2. Hold. Now flex the foot, push through your heel, draw, like allow that heel to sweep forward. Point and reach through wet sand. And again. Couple more. Nice, everybody. Letting that ankle move as much as you can. Same with the leg. As you reach the leg back, make sure you're coming into hip extension rather than just lumbar extension, right? So if our low back is doing the work, as opposed to that glute, it's a slightly different move. Last 2. Reach the foot away. Last 1. If you've ever used the springboard, imagine that the springs are attached to the foot and you are pushing into resistance. And then bring both knees together. Making sure that your ribs are connected here. Making sure you're not arching. You're going to start to slide your legs back into your end range. So if you're like me and you have tighter hip flexors, your knees might be closer forward. If your hip flexors are nice and elongated, you might be able to get in line. Then top leg comes in front. Okay, lift that bottom leg, extend it out. Good. Keep your upper thigh bones still, keep your knees still as you bend your heel in. So you're trying to drag your heel towards your glute. Hold it for a second and then extend out. Good. Still trying to keep length in that top hip. Good. And reach it away. So as you reach it away, trying to focus on inner thigh. So you drag it back, your inner thigh is still active, but you're also getting more hamstring, yes? If you're not, pull your heel in closer to you and hold it. 2 more. Last one, hold. Now keep that hold, lift the knee and foot. 5, 4. Nancy, bend your knee more. Press your heel back more. Yeah, 3. Is that more exciting? 2. Last 1. Bring it down. Come onto your stomach. Now, you can use the foam roller if you want. You can also not use it. I'm going to show both ways. So think about pulling your armpit muscles down, finding your abs, glutes are nice and active. Think of rolling your collarbones forward, and then if it feels appropriate, you can press into your hands slightly. That's not how I want you to do it with the foam roller. Okay, so yeah, this is foam roller free option. With the foam roller, your hands are going to point towards each other. Reach your fingertips forward so your shoulders lift. Then shoulder blades draw down slightly, press down into the foam roller to help your collarbones lift. Good. And then back. Because it's not about height as much as being shot out of a cannon, right? Good. We want our whole spine to move. Couple more. And 2. Last one. Press yourselves into a rest position. And then slide your hands in towards you. I'll show this from a couple different positions. Hand can be on your shoulder or behind your neck. And we're just letting that elbow brush out. We're not retracting, we're widening. And then you can let that elbow reach up a little bit because you're rotating. come back to center. Same thing. We're trying to rotate our ribs, get a little bit of movement, and we're just sticking with one side, you guys. Coming to center, then rotating. Center only, rotating. And then other side. We're just getting that active rotation. And Nancy, did you switch sides? Good, yep. To kind of pair with that passive rotation we found earlier, right? We can't get active rotation, or we can't get an active range in something unless we have access to its passive range. But having access to its passive range also doesn't mean we have access to its active range. So we need to do both. 2. Last one. And if you're ready, you can come to standing. Hands down, tuck your toes, press into little downward dog and bring your hands towards your feet and roll on up. We're just gonna get a little bit of balance work. Bring your heel to your toe. And look over one of your shoulders. And then the other side. Okay. Back and forth. Yeah. And then if you're ready, you can close one or both eyes. Much harder. Last one. And then switch legs. So center your weight. Yeah. Press into the floor. Know that the floor always, like, we're always standing on the earth. It always revolves. So we're always moving. So it's okay. Good. Now, if you want, you can close one or both eyes. It's okay to use your hands, be the willow tree, as opposed to the oak tree. Like, you can use spirit fingers, jazz hands, whatever you need. And last one. Bring your feet together, slide your shoulders to your ears, and drop them straight down. And give yourself a round of applause. Nice work today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, thank you. Yay! Thank you, thank you. Nice to see you, Yvonne. And nice to see you, Stephanie.